Tonight, the tornado emergency. The heartland on alert tonight for a particularly rough evening. Breaking news tonight, a $70 million fighter jet falls off an aircraft carrier. The details just coming in. President Trump on the eve of marking his first 100 days back in office. The new ABC poll just in. What it shows about his approval rating, how it compares to recent presidents. And our Matt Rivers does a deep dive into the Trump administration's immigration policies, the people caught in the middle, and the border numbers way down. 2 days after the world witnessed the funeral for Pope Francis, tens of thousands already lining up at his tomb. This as we learn when that secret conclave to elect a new pope will begin. But how long could it take? The massive blackout overseas, millions in the dark in Spain and Portugal. The Madrid Open canceled. American tennis star Coco Gauff in the middle of a live interview when the power went out. Also, the prank call to the star quarterback, adding insult to injury in the middle of his massive slide at the NFL draft. And this ain't just Texas. Superstar Beyonce's groundbreaking worldwide tour is kicking off. We have all the details.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Eva Pilgrim in for Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin with President Trump on the cusp of his 100th day in office. A new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll showing Trump with the lowest 100-day approval rating of any president in the last 80 years. Voters now expressing serious doubts about his handling of the economy. The president earning his more favorable numbers on his handling of immigration, leaning into that today, signing two new executive orders escalating his administration's battle with so-called sanctuary cities. And in an interview with The Atlantic magazine, when asked what would happen if the administration accidentally deported someone, even an American citizen, the president responding, "Nothing will ever be perfect." I'll ask Texas Senator Ted Cruz to assess the president's 100 days in office in a moment. But first, senior political correspondent Rachel Scott leads us off from the White House.
Tonight, on the eve of marking his first 100 days in office, President Trump facing the reality that while he was elected in large part because of the economy and inflation,
starting on day one, we will end inflation. We will end inflation and we will make America affordable again.
He has now presided over the worst first 100 days in the stock market since Richard Nixon. Tonight, the new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll on the first 100 days shows the president's approval rating is 39%, the lowest 100-day approval rating of any president in 80 years. 72% say that his economic policies will likely cause a recession in short term. 73% say the economy is in bad shape, and 53% say it's gotten worse since he took office. President Trump's tariffs leading to global uncertainty, and his 145% tariffs on China remain in place. The president says he has a good relationship with President Xi of China, but that he hasn't reached out to him. Instead, telling Time, Xi has personally reached out to him, something China denies. I asked the president, when did you talk?
You said that you have spoken to President Xi. When did that happen? China says it hasn't happened.
I spoke to him numerous times.
Other reporters pressing too.
Have you spoken to him since the tariffs? When did you last
I don't want to comment on that, but I've spoken to him many times.
But China today once again insisting that hasn't happened. Today, a spokesperson saying, as far as I know, there have not been any calls between the two presidents recently. Adding, let me make it clear one more time that China and the U.S. are not engaged in any consultation or negotiations on tariffs, after already warning the United States should not confuse the public. On immigration, the other major issue in the November election, President Trump getting his highest marks, but they come with new questions tonight. 46% of Americans approve of his immigration policies, but 48% say his actions deporting undocumented migrants have gone too far. Tonight, the White House defending how they've handled mass deportations after 3 children who are U.S. citizens, ages 2, 4, and 7, were deported to Honduras, along with their mothers after routine checks by ICE. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, claiming the parents were given a choice.
What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision. Parenting 101. Having a U.S. citizen child does not make you immune from our laws.
The ACLU says the 4-year-old suffers from a rare form of cancer. On the 2-year-old sent to Honduras, a federal judge appointed by Trump, saying he has a strong suspicion the administration deported the 2-year-old, whose mother is currently pregnant, with no meaningful process. And the ACLU claiming the parents were never given a choice, that the parents did not have the opportunity to coordinate with caretakers or legal representatives. In a new interview with The Atlantic, the president was asked what would happen if the administration accidentally deported the wrong person or an American citizen. The president saying, quote, "Let me tell you that nothing will ever be perfect in this world." And on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the promise from candidate Trump.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled. It will take me no longer than one day.
Tonight, the war is still raging. 46% of Americans said Trump's approach to Russia is too friendly. The president requesting this meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky at the Vatican ahead of Pope Francis's funeral this weekend, though it's still unclear how and when this war will end and what concessions, if any, will come from Vladimir Putin.
Rachel Scott joins us now. There's a lot of focus on the president's interactions with our allies. This is coming as Canadians are heading to the polls today.
Yeah, exactly. Eva, Canadians are heading to the polls tonight for their consequential election. It's an election that will decide how Canada responds to the president's ongoing tariff threats, but also to the president's repeated push to want to make Canada the 51st state. All of that, though, could end up helping the more liberal Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who took over after Justin Trudeau stepped down and has vowed to confront President Trump head on, Eva.
Rachel Scott at the White House. Rachel, thank you. And President Trump sits down with ABC News live anchor Terry Moran for an exclusive Oval Office interview as he marks his first 100 days. You can watch it tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Joining us now for more is Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz, chair of the Senate Commerce Committee. Thank you, as always, for your time, Senator. Tomorrow marks the president's 100th day in office, which is historically seen as a moment to evaluate the term to date. So let's do that. Let's start with the economy and the tariff whiplash. You've criticized the Trump administration over the tariffs, which now are largely paused for the next 2.5 months, except on China. We've heard from farmers, small businesses, and everyday Americans, many worried tariffs will affect their bottom lines. How would you rate the Trump administration's performance on the economy in these first 100 days?
Well, listen, I think when it comes to tariffs and standing up for American business, the president has shown enormous leadership, fighting to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States, and in particular, standing up to China. And I think every step we can take to de-link our economy from China, to bring jobs back from China to America, those are good and positive steps. What I have urged the president, I think the president has a fork in the road, a real choice right now, with a very good option in front of him and a very bad option in front of him. The very good option is that I think President Trump today has enormous, unprecedented leverage to negotiate with our trading partners and to get much, much lower tariffs for U.S. goods and services at trading countries all around the world. And I have urged President Trump, go down that road, use that leverage. Doing so, I think, would be an historic victory for American jobs, for American workers. And it is because the president has threatened tariffs, he's got the leverage to produce a dramatic reductions in tariffs worldwide. There is a second possible road, and that is a road that envisions high tariffs forever, that envisions high American tariffs and high retaliatory tariffs from our trading partners. I think that second road would be disastrous. I think that would hurt the state of Texas. I think it would hurt the country. There are voices within the Trump administration advocating both paths. And so what I've told the president over and over and over again is choose path number one. It'll be a huge victory for American jobs and American workers.
We have to be real, though. The cost of everything these days is more than it has been. And you've warned on your podcast, The Verdict with Ted Cruz, that you have some concerns. The Republicans could face, quote, a bloodbath if the tariffs cost a recession. Are you worried that your party could suffer significant losses next year if the Trump administration goes forward with all these tariffs?
Well, look, I don't think that will happen if the president goes down the path of using the leverage to negotiate deals and lowering trade barriers. If we see very high tariffs forever, then we do risk a recession. And listen, at the end of the day, tariffs are taxes, and I don't support higher taxes. I'm fine with the president, and I support the president using the threat of tariffs to get our trading partners to lower the tariffs they put on U.S. goods and services. But I think higher taxes forever is a really bad outcome.
We also have to talk about immigration. The numbers of crossings at the southern border are way down by 94%. Yeah. For those migrants, though, that are already here, judges across the country, including at the Supreme Court, have ruled they are entitled to be notified about deportation within a reasonable time that would allow them to challenge the move in court. So I'm curious, how do you think these proceedings should be handled?
Well, listen, I think the president's victory on securing the border is historic. As you noted, over 90% decrease in illegal border crossings. You know, my favorite thing President Trump said at the State of the Union address earlier this year is he pointed out that last year Joe Biden has said it was impossible to secure the border unless Congress passed new legislation. And President Trump said it turns out we didn't need new legislation, we just needed a new president. I think that's exactly right. We now have an administration that is enforcing the law. I will say, for those who are here illegally, this administration is going to enforce the law. If you're a criminal, if you're a murderer, if you're a rapist, if you're a child molester, if you're a Venezuelan gang member, they will find you, they will arrest you, they will deport you.
But what about for those migrants who are not violent criminals?
Well, if they're illegal immigrants, you have no entitlement to stay. The rule of law matters.
Before we let you go today, there is a bit of bipartisan good news that we want to talk about. You and Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota co-sponsored a bill to protect teenagers from deep fake revenge porn. This time tomorrow, it should actually be on the president's desk for his signature. We don't hear a lot of bipartisan collaboration these days, so I'm curious, how often are y'all working across party lines?
Well, actually, a lot more than you would think. My legislation, the Take It Down Act, it's already passed the Senate 100-0. Tonight, it's going to pass the House of Representatives, and President Trump is going to sign it into law. It protects the victims of these non-consensual intimate images. It also gives you a right to demand that garbage be taken down, because many of the tech platforms refuse to take the content down. This gives a legal right, and it protects young girls and young women, and it's a huge bipartisan victory that we're winning tonight.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, now to a serious tornado threat at this hour. Several major cities across multiple states on alert. A dangerous storm system on the move tonight. 60 million Americans from Texas to the Northeast closely watching this severe weather threat. The system spawning multiple tornadoes in the plains, this one in Nebraska, powerful enough to derail a massive train. ABC meteorologist Samara Theodore is tracking it all. And Samara, I'm curious, what has you most concerned tonight?
Well, Eva, it's the fact that nightfall is now approaching for a lot of these cities and tornado warnings are going off. Those nocturnal tornadoes can be very dangerous, especially if you're out on the road. We have a tornado warning right now just to the south and west of Topeka, Kansas there. You can see Minneapolis, a line of storms moving through. We just had a tornado warning expire just to the south of there, but everyone in the yellow is under a tornado watch. That means the conditions are primed for the potential for a tornado. But farther north is where we have the most concern. It's a level 4 out of 5 when it comes to severe weather. The potential for multiple tornadoes, and some of those tornadoes could be very strong. That includes Minneapolis, Mason City, Iowa Falls. As we head through the next couple of hours, this will continue its trajectory towards the east. By 1 a.m., arriving in places like Green Bay, just south of Green Bay into Madison. By tomorrow, this severe weather threat shifts east. From Buffalo, New York to Cleveland to Pittsburgh, that's the greatest threat for damaging wind, but we could see tornadoes anywhere inside this yellow zone from Wichita Falls all the way to Syracuse, New York. That's not the only concern. Flash flooding. Think about it. This past weekend, we saw copious amounts of rain fall in places like Oklahoma and Texas. So that top layer of soil is already saturated, and now they're dealing with more significant rain Tuesday into Tuesday night, 3 to 7 inches there. Wednesday, still sticking around the greater Oklahoma region, Fort Smith down to Paris, we could see significant flash flooding. So between the tornadoes and the flash flooding, folks really need to be extra vigilant over the next couple of days.
Samara Theodore there. Thank you, Samara. Now to the stunning incident we are learning about a U.S. aircraft carrier. The Navy reporting an F-18 fighter jet plunged off the deck of the USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier and right into the Red Sea. Tonight, questions surrounding how this happened. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, the stunning fall from an aircraft carrier, a $70 million fighter jet going overboard in the Red Sea, crew members jumping to safety. The Navy says an F-18 fighter jet was being towed out of a hangar on the USS Truman when the crew lost control. The plane and the towing tractor both tumbling overboard, sinking to the bottom of the sea. One crew member was on the plane, a second on the tractor, both of them escaping at the last moment. One sailor suffering a minor injury.
Officials say it's unclear whether enemy fire played a role or other factors like human error or mechanical malfunction.
The Truman has been protecting commercial shipping in the Red Sea from ongoing attacks by Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, the carrier coming under fire several times. A U.S. official tells ABC News initial reports suggest a sudden movement of the carrier because of Houthi fire might have contributed to the crew losing control of the F-18, but those reports remain unconfirmed. Earlier this year, the Truman collided with another ship. The commanding officer was then fired. And back in 2022, this video from a naval investigation shows the moment an F-35 crashed upon landing on the USS Carl Vinson, a fireball erupting, the jet sliding off the carrier and into the South China Sea.
And Trevor Hall, thank you. Well, tonight, the suspect in a horrific SUV attack in Vancouver is charged with murder for the deaths of 11 people, including a 5-year-old girl. ABC's chief national correspondent Matt Gutman has the latest from Vancouver tonight.
Oh my gosh, Lord have mercy.
Tonight, authorities searching for a motive after an SUV plowed through a crowd in Vancouver. A lively street festival suddenly filled with the screams of the wounded. At least 11 dead and more than 24 injured.
We've never experienced a crime to this scale, a crime this horrific.
Authorities identifying the suspect as 30-year-old Kaiji Adam Lowe of Vancouver, charging him with 8 counts of second-degree murder, and they say more charges are coming. Just after 8 p.m. Saturday, closing time for the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival celebrating Filipino heritage, a black Audi SUV plowing through the crowd.
We saw the body all over the place.
Yeah. How far did the car go? Did you see where it stopped?
The end.
Disturbing video showing victims scattered all over the street. People rushing to save the wounded. Bjorn Villaruel shaken by what he saw.
When you close your eyes, you see them?
Yeah.
You see the victims?
I feel that I could do something. I need to save those people. My people.
The 11 victims between the ages of 5 and 65. The youngest, just 5 years old, dying alongside her parents. That family leaving behind a 16-year-old son.
Matt Gutman joins us now. What are we learning about the suspect?
Eva, his name is Kaiji Adam Lowe, and police say he was actually known to them. He's had a history of mental health issues, which is one reason that authorities here in Vancouver say they believe this was not motivated by terrorism. This despite the fact that Canada is right now in the midst of these very consequential national elections. We are also learning more about the victims, Eva, because so many of them were critically wounded in that ramming attack. Authorities say they believe that the death toll is going to rise, and it's another reason that they expect additional charges to be levied against this suspect at some point in the near future. His next court date is on May 26th, Eva.
Matt Gutman, thank you. Well, breaking news tonight, 4 people have died after a vehicle plowed through a school building in Chatham, Illinois. According to Illinois State Police, the vehicle hit multiple people outside before continuing into the building, hitting more people inside. Now, police confirmed the 4 fatalities are believed to be between the ages of 4 and 18 years old. The driver of the vehicle was not injured and has been transported to the hospital for evaluation. Well, tonight we are learning the secret conclave to elect a new pope will start on May 7th. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longland is at the Vatican, where preparations are underway inside the Sistine Chapel.
Just days after the world said goodbye to Pope Francis, tonight a date is set to choose his successor. The Vatican announcing Wednesday, May 7th, conclave will begin, and the most powerful men of the Catholic Church will gather in the painted magnificence of the Sistine Chapel. Conclave, literally with key, means the cardinals will be shut off from the outside world. No communication, no news, no distractions from their sacred work. There are 252 cardinals, but only 135 of them are under 80 and therefore eligible to take part. Swedish Cardinal Aberelius predicts a long election because they don't know each other. Francis chose cardinals for 29 countries that had never had a cardinal before. The oldest eligible is Spain's Carlos Osorio Sierra. He turns 80 in mid-May and told reporters he had already decided who he'd select. Their red robes, red to remember the blood of Christ, shone bright in the sun of Saturday's funeral, where thousands gathered to remember Francis. His simple wooden coffin, a contrast to the awesome splendor of Vatican City. His basic tomb, inscribed with one word, Franciscus, the cross he wore in life reproduced on the wall above. Eva, a special floor will be built inside the Sistine Chapel to protect the more than 500-year-old marble. A stove will be installed to burn those ballots, and that chimney, that'll go up on top of the chapel, which we'll all be watching for that famous white smoke. Eva?
James Longman there. Thank you. Well, the trial of 10 people charged in the robbery of Kim Kardashian in a Paris hotel is now finally underway. It's a crime that made national headlines almost 9 years ago. The robbery took place during Paris Fashion Week in October 2016. The reality TV star was bound and gagged at gunpoint, robbed of more than $6 million worth of jewelry, which has since been recovered. Kardashian's lawyers said she will testify in person at the trial, which is expected to run through the end of May. Millions are without power across Europe tonight following a severe disruption in the European electrical system. The disruption spans across Spain, Portugal, and parts of southern France, stranding thousands of train passengers and leaving millions without phone and internet coverage. Red Electrica, the corporation that operates Spain's national grid, said in an update that nearly half of the substations have power again. They are hoping to fully restore power within 10 hours. The cause of the outages is still unknown. Coming up here on Prime, what officials are calling a senseless act after a Missouri firefighter paramedic died inside an ambulance. But first, as we prepare to mark President Trump's first 100 days, we take an exhaustive look at his action on immigration and the people caught in the middle.
We just want to go back to our country. We just want our rights. We don't deserve to get taken to our country. That's not even ours. We just want to go back home.
Welcome back. With President Trump's 100th day in office tomorrow, we want to take an extensive look at his actions on immigration. According to an ABC News poll, 53% of Americans disapprove of his actions on the issue, and the courts have put many of his immigration policies on hold. Our Matt Rivers has this in-depth report.
We get grabbed in the morning, about 4 in the morning.
This is Alessandro Paredes, a 19-year-old Venezuelan migrant charged with pointing a pistol at someone earlier this year in South Carolina. He turned himself into police, but before that gun charge worked its way through a court, immigration authorities arrested him. The Trump administration says he is a gang member in the country illegally.
And just get taken into a van.
We spoke to him from a detention center in North Texas, where he denied being a gang member.
We have been forced to sign this paper. It's right here. It's basically saying that we are part of a gang. It's saying that we are part of it, and they're forcing us to sign it.
By they, he means CBP officers. The Department of Homeland Security declining comment, and ABC News has no way to know if he's a gang member or not. But Paredes knows what he's accused of, and he's terrified that he will join the hundreds of other Venezuelans facing similar accusations that have been deported recently to Secot, an El Salvador prison we visited a few weeks ago.
Bueno, por favor, comenzamos por acá.
A last-minute Supreme Court decision temporarily barred Paredes' deportation, saying he and others deserve due process.
This is not being done by law. This is totally illegal, and it's out the blue.
Gang member or not, the argument goes, everyone deserves their day in court, and civil rights lawyers say they're not getting it. The Trump administration argues they're following the law.
President Trump and our administration will not rest until every single violent, illegal alien is removed from our country. The safety of the American people is too important to settle for anything less.
And if a 19-year-old in the country illegally, facing a pending weapons charge, is arguing for due process, That's exactly the fight this administration wants to have. This one case just the latest in a lightning-fast, if controversial, attempt by the Trump administration to remake U.S. immigration policy in its first 100 days.
It's been what we expected, that they would go after immigrants in a variety of ways. We knew it would be worse than the first Trump administration.
No one issue was more front and center during the campaign than immigration.
We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country.
And upon taking office, Trump zeroed in, on day one alone, a slew of executive orders, ramping up deportations, ending humanitarian parole programs, and other legal pathways into the U.S. set up by the Biden administration. Orders quickly turned to action. First up were the DHS raids, as agents fanned out across the country, targeting many people they said were gang members, part of a plan to deport criminals as fast as possible. Then ordering the military to reinforce the southern border. We were there as Osprey aircraft were seen hauling supplies.
So right now these Marines are offloading concertina wire. They're going to bring it right down to the border to reinforce it. It's clearly meant to be a deterrent against future migration, and these kinds of supply flights, we might see a lot more of them over the coming months.
And after years of thousands of people crossing the southern border each day, the numbers quickly plunged. Migrants stuck in Mexico. The number of crossings per day now at or near record lows.
Do you credit President Trump's policies for that?
Absolutely. President Trump is responsible for the turnaround at our southern border. He has sent the message across the globe that if you come here illegally, there will be consequences. And that message needed to be sent. Basically, the previous administration had rolled out the welcome mat.
But the most controversial part of Trump's new look immigration policy was about to begin. It's mid-March, and President Trump invokes an obscure law from 1798, the Alien Enemies Act. It gives the president the power to deport people when any invasion is perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States. Trump has long called migration an invasion, but it's that law that led to this. Hundreds of migrants deported to El Salvador, despite a court ordering that their removal flights return to the States. Shackled, heads bent forward, shoved inside that mega prison. The administration says they're alleged gang members without providing evidence. Some families of detainees deny that, including a Salvadoran named Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported here despite a court order prohibiting that. An ABC News poll showing 46% of Americans approving the president's handling of immigration, while 53% disapprove. And while there is no question Trump's policies have slowed arrivals to the southern border, how effective his deportation policies have been is questionable. Trump campaigned on a promise to deport millions, but the limited deportation data released by DHS shows deportations nowhere near that pace. And multiple cases of wrongful deportation, alongside reports that many deported had no criminal record, have raised concerns over just how legal all this is. Adrian Gil Rojas was detained when ICE officers entered his home looking for another person. Then they accused him of being a gang member and placed him in a detention center, even though he was legally in the country at the time of his arrest with temporary protected status. He says were it not for a last-minute mechanical issue with the removal flight, he too might have ended up in El Salvador.
Ser removido, deportado a una prisión donde no pertenece uno como persona, porque la verdad no soy una mala persona, no tengo delitos, no tengo nada, y eso me perturbaba demasiado.
I think the Trump administration has not only pushed up to the legal line, but gone well past it. Many of the policies are just flouting laws that Congress has passed.
Most of Trump's immigration policies are now tied up in the courts in a spider web of district, federal, and Supreme Court rulings. The Trump administration's unwillingness to fully comply with some of those rulings have sparked fears of a constitutional crisis.
I don't think I've seen a time in my more than 3 decades practicing where an administration has been so disrespectful to the federal courts.
The staying power of all these new immigration policies is also an open question. Remember, the policies are largely based on executive actions, meaning another president could theoretically reverse them in the future, unless Congress steps in.
So lasting change in 4 years, I think, will require Congress to come to the party, give them the resources, and enact these laws.
How the next 1,360 or so days remaining in Trump's term play out remains to be seen. But for now, those most affected, like Alessandro Paredes and those alongside him, they're stuck.
We just want justice. We're human, we have human rights, and we're fighting for it. We just want to go back to our country. We just want our rights. We don't deserve to get taken to a country that's not even ours. We just want to go back home.
Our thanks to Matt Rivers for that report. Coming up, one of the largest cities in the Midwest closing several public schools due to lead concerns. Also next, some news for music lovers. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025 officially announced. Who made the list? We'll take a look by the numbers. It's one of the greatest honors in music, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So who's been chosen to be part of the class of 2025? We're taking a look by the numbers. This year, there are 13 inductees. The class of 2025 includes the groups Bad Company, Outkast, Soundgarden, The White Stripes, Salt and Pepper, musicians Cyndi Lauper, Joe Cocker, Chubby Checker, Warren Zevon, Nicky Hopkins, Carol Kay, and producer and executive Lenny Waronker. Now, Lauper was one of the biggest stars of the 1980s. Her record-breaking debut album, She's So Unusual, featured 4 consecutive top 5 U.S. singles and also earned her 2 Grammys. Andre 3000 Benjamin and Antoine Big Boy Patton of Outkast redefined hip-hop and are one of the most critically acclaimed and commercially successful hip-hop groups of all time. Their hit single, Hey Ya, has 1.5 billion streams just on Spotify. Checker, who popularized The Twist, is one of the oldest inductees at 83 years old. This was his first time on the ballot. To be eligible, artists must have released their first commercial record at least 25 years prior to nomination. All of the artists who were inducted in the performer category have landed top 5 albums on the Billboard 200. Well, coming up, it's being called one of the most shocking draft slides ever. Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, waiting round after round. How the sports world is reacting, and the cruel prank call on Sanders that's sparking controversy. It's a real-life boogie and a real-life hoedown as Beyonce kicks off her highly anticipated Cowboy Carter tour. What to expect from the historic show. Fire destroys a church with ties to Martin Luther King Jr. A patient in an ambulance turns on a paramedic, killing him. And coming off her Grammy wins, Beyonce begins her coast-to-coast tour. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown.
Authorities are investigating the cause of a fire that destroyed a historic church in Memphis, Tennessee. The fire broke out in the Claiborne Temple overnight. The landmark church, more than 130 years old, is rooted in the civil rights movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was set to lead a march from there on April 8, 1968. He was assassinated 4 days earlier. The city of Milwaukee announced 2 more public schools will be closed due to ongoing lead concerns, bringing the total to 4 closed schools. The school district also says it'll work to solve flaking paint, the suspected cause for the elevated blood lead levels in 4 students this year. Last month, the CDC was poised to send its lead disease detectives to Milwaukee, but the entire division was cut under sweeping HHS layoffs.
This is a senseless act that has taken a young man from his family, friends, and co-workers.
A woman is accused of stabbing a firefighter paramedic to death while she was being transported in an ambulance. Kansas City police say the victim, Graham Hoffman, was in the back of his ambulance early Sunday when he was stabbed in the chest, piercing his heart while transporting the patient to a local hospital. The patient, a 39-year-old woman, then tried to commandeer the ambulance but was arrested. She's to be charged with first-degree murder and has a history of violent encounters with police. The Secret Service has identified the alleged thief of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's purse from a Washington, D.C. restaurant on Easter Sunday. He's described by authorities as a serial offender in the country illegally. Noem's bag contained $3,000 cash, her passport, her keys, and her department ID card. The Secret Service says its investigation uncovered what it calls potential device and credit card fraud. Get in formation. Beyoncé's highly anticipated tour for her country album Cowboy Carter kicks off in LA tonight at SoFi Stadium. Her tour includes 32 stadium shows across 9 cities in the US and Europe. Her final show will be in Vegas July 26. Cowboy Carter won Grammys for Best Album of the Year and Best Country Album, making her the first Black woman to do so.
Super Bowl 59 champion, the Philadelphia Eagles.
At the White House today, the Philadelphia Eagles paid President Trump a visit, celebrating their Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Notably not in attendance, quarterback Jalen Hurts, reportedly due to scheduling conflicts. Running back Saquon Barkley spent Sunday golfing with Trump at his Bedminster, New Jersey golf course. The celebration in stark contrast from 2018, when the Eagles decided to send only a small contingent to the White House due to disagreements with Trump's policies. Trump then rescinded the invitation altogether.
Well, Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, was projected to be among the first picks of this year's NFL draft, but the football world watched over the weekend as he waited round after round, finally getting picked in the 5th round. ABC's Lara Spencer has more on this story.
The NFL investigating this prank call to draft hopeful Shedeur Sanders, son of NFL legend Deion Sanders, picking up the phone Friday, thinking it was a coach inviting him to join the team.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man.
No, for sure.
We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah, yes, sir. Let's be legendary.
But you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man.
The caller abruptly hanging up.
What does that mean? You heard that?
You said you're going to have to wait a little bit longer.
Nobody got that number but coaches, strictly for that reason.
But it wasn't a coach or anyone from an NFL team.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
Instead, it was these young men seen in this video circulating on social media, impersonating New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis.
We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah, yes, sir. Let's be legendary.
But you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh my God! He's funny!
The Atlanta Falcons releasing a statement saying Jax Ulbrich, the 21-year-old son of defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, found the number and was responsible for the call. That video showing Ulbrich and a friend making the call. Ulbrich apologizing to Shedeur on Instagram, writing, "I'm so sorry I took away from your moment. It was selfish and childish." And Sanders is trying to put the whole thing behind him.
This is what it is. I think of course the dude was childish. Of course I feel like it was a childish act, but everybody do childish things here and there.
The Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders.
The 5th round pick, quarterback, considered the biggest draft slide in history. But Sanders still appeared thrilled when the call came.
Thank you for the fans, thank you for everybody, thank you for the Browns organization for giving me a chance. That's all I need.
Originally projected to go as high as number 2 in the draft, waiting round after round to hear his name, his dad Deion, also his coach and biggest cheerleader, by his side. Many experts in NFL circles say they've never seen anything like this before.
32 teams passed on them. How the hell does that happen?
Some pointing to comments like this one from an unnamed NFL assistant who told NFL media that his interview with Shedeur was the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled, but the biggest thing is he's not that good. But others say it wasn't all personal, that this year the draft was focused more on the linemen who protect quarterbacks and less on quarterbacks themselves. And all eyes will be on Sanders now in the preseason, as the quarterback-heavy Browns look to move out of the bottom spot in their conference.
Joining us now is ABC News contributor Mike Muse. Mike, this was all really surprising. Shedeur Sanders, now considered one of the biggest slides in draft history. What happened here?
All great questions. That is the number one question that a lot of us are asking ourselves come Monday morning quarterbacking. But what's interesting about this is that this isn't a binary conversation. I know society has been operating at this as if it is binary. It's very gray and it's very nuanced and it's very yes and. A lot of individuals were not expecting Shedeur Sanders to go number one in the draft, nor possibly first round. But a lot of individuals thought that if he wasn't going to go first round, he definitely would be able to go second round. So for him to fall so far to the 144th position really raised eyebrows and lots of questions.
Okay, so he ended up going to the Browns. Cleveland actually drafted a QB in the third round. They already have Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does Sanders' future at Cleveland possibly look like?
What I love about you, Eva, is you're not afraid to go there with the questions. I thank you that you did. That brings up to more of the questions that surrounding it because of the fact that there were, at this point, other quarterbacks that picked. And right before that, the Cleveland Browns picked Dillon Gabriel. Now, in my opinion, pound for pound, Shedeur Sanders is a much better quarterback than Dillon Gabriel is. And so now the fact that you have two draft quarterbacks are going to have to compete during training camp with a Joe Flacco, who also, too, has to prove himself to as well because there is no guarantee. So we are going to start seeing the drama unfold during training camp to see who is going to go forward.
Mm-hmm. And a competition to ensue there as well.
Yeah.
We also have to talk about this prank call that happened. Yeah. Sanders got this call during the draft. It was the son of the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Any fallout from that?
There hasn't been any fallout yet. The NFL is still saying that they are going to investigate this dynamic. But the challenge is, though, is that where do you hand down the punishment? You know, one could say technically this isn't illegal what the son did, but the question remains is that his father is an employee of the NFL. You have to. The statement was that they found his number on the open iPad that the defensive coordinator has. So, Eva, for me, my question is, that is data. That is data privacy. You and I talk about data privacy often. There should be some ramification for having data exposed and not being protected. I'm not saying that this coach needs to be fired, but I definitely do need to believe there should be some punitive damages handed down to the coach just on the mere fact alone that there's a data breach, right? That the data wasn't secure. And that is very sensitive information, but even that plays into a larger narrative of Shedeur Sanders, right? That gets to the politics of the grayscale of why Shedeur Sanders wasn't picked. The way that people have not responded to the confidence of Shedeur Sanders, you know, off the field, right? He's a very determined individual. He's very assured in who he is. And of course, his father is Deion Sanders, who's also too confident and assured to who he is. So the question remains is, was there a personality trait that the NFL owners didn't want to deal with?
Well, there's a lot we don't know, but you know what? I bet you a lot of people are going to be watching him to see what happens this football season.
It's all about the summer, Eva.
Mike Hughes, thank you so much for being with us. Well, the Washington Commanders are set to return to the nation's capital. A new $4 billion agreement today between the District of Columbia and the NFL franchise will ultimately result in a new stadium at the RFK Stadium site, the place the franchise called home for more than 3 decades. The new stadium would open in 2030, and if all goes well, crews are expected to break ground next year. Our next guest is known worldwide for his powerhouse vocals and magnetic stage presence as the frontman of the highly successful and Grammy-nominated 2021 Eurovision winners Måneskin. Now he's stepping into the spotlight on his own and gearing up for the release of his debut solo album and a global tour. He's already making waves with his new music. Take a listen to this one, Born with a Broken Heart. Damiano David joins us now to discuss his new album, Funny Little Fears. Thank you so much for being with us.
Of course, thank you.
So first I have to ask you about this title, Funny Little Fears. How did you come to that?
It describes what's inside the album for me. The whole process has been about overcoming my fears in order to write an album that it's so personal and so intimate for me. So for me, it's literally like a manual on how to get over my fears when I forget about it, and I hope it can work the same way for other people.
You're in a band, you're doing this solo. I can only imagine that they're wildly different.
Yeah.
How has it been?
There's a lot of different, of course, like with the band, we have a very established identity, so we know what we're gonna do every time, and it's all about finding a way that makes everyone happy. In this case, was a lot more about finding my sound, finding my style, a lot of experimentation. It was a lot of fun, a lot of creativity was involved.
This album's already getting so many rave reviews, so much love. To see that kind of love coming back already, what has that been like?
It's crazy. It's amazing. I mean, this album, again, it's very personal for me. It's like a page of my diary. So seeing people relating to it and loving it, it's a huge fulfilling sentiment for me.
You're about to go on this big global world tour, and I hear you're making stops at Lollapalooza and Bonnaroo, some big music festivals. When you get in front of these huge crowds, I mean thousands of people, and they sing your songs back to you.
That's wild. No, that's very, very unique. I always think about the tour as something very magical and very rare. Also, when you think about what it takes for people to come see you and you break it down and how much effort they put to come support you, it's very special.
What can people expect if they come see you on tour?
I want to try to make a show that changes every night and try to bring a different show for each city and each audience I face. Both for them and for me, I want to make it as fun as possible.
Damiano David, thank you so much for being with us. And we want to remind everyone that your debut album, Funny Little Fears, drops May 16th. And if you want to catch him live, you better act fast. Tickets for his upcoming tour are on sale right now. And that's it for our show for this hour. I'm Eva Pilgrim. Stay tuned for ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us.